Dozens of people are still fighting for their lives after yesterday's Las Vegas attack. Good evening, I'm Amber Sight.
And I'm Jim Rick. Thanks for joining us. The sheriff says the mass shooting was carefully planned. The shooter had more than 40 guns in his hotel room in his house. He also placed cameras in and outside his hotel room, possibly to see police coming. The sheriff says it's likely someone noticed his suspicious behavior but didn't say anything. The motive for the attack is still unknown. Tonight, the shooting remains just that, a shooting. President Trump and major news outlets have not labeled this terrorism.
KOMU 8's Chris Joseph is in the studio to tell us what local experts say about the use and power of the word.
The responses I got varied this afternoon, but it's clear the legal definition of the term terrorism has not been met. I spoke to 2 law professors and a social justice speaker about why this is the case. The Las Vegas mass shooting this week left more than 50 dead and 500 plus wounded, but the attack hasn't been labeled as terrorism.
It was an act of pure evil.
An MU law professor says investigators must know the motive of the shooting first, something they haven't found yet.
That being so, it would be impossible to classify what happened as terrorism or not terrorism, because it's the why that matters.
U.S. law says domestic terrorism must be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, or to affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping.
Horror at the hands of a psychopath.
An MU journalism law professor says journalists can't use the term terrorism unless they know it's accurate.
The emotional content of some terms, I think, increases the duty of journalists to make sure that indeed that is the term that's applicable.
Social justice speaker Amir Ahmed spoke at MU Tuesday night and says terrorist continues to be a racial term not applicable to white shooters.
Suspicion comes onto people who look like me, and experiences of racial profiling and discrimination and ends up being attached to people who look like me, with names like me, with religious backgrounds like myself.
Wow. Understanding the tragedy in Las Vegas is an ongoing process, and so is the way America defines it. The Islamic State group has claimed responsibility for the shooting, but investigators haven't found any evidence of that being the case. In the studio, Chris Joseph, KOMU 8 News.
President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania visited Puerto Rico today to meet with Hurricane Maria survivors. The administration has received criticism for their response to the hurricane's devastation. Some say President Trump took too long to visit the island. In a curious move, he mentioned Puerto Rico's budget issues during his press conference today.
Now, I hate to tell you, Puerto Rico, but you've thrown our budget a little out of whack, because we've spent a lot of money on Puerto Rico, and that's fine. We've saved a lot of lives.
After the meeting, the President and First Lady handed out aid to Hurricane Maria survivors. The island is still in need of power, food, and supplies 2 weeks after the storm hit. The U.S. State Department is requesting a list of Cuban diplomats leave the country. This decision comes amid unexplained attacks on Americans in Havana. The attacks caused dizziness, fatigue, and hearing loss. The 15 Cuban diplomats have a week to leave the United States. Cuba's foreign minister says the decision was, quote, unacceptable and hasty.
New information on the Jefferson City man shot and killed by police early this morning. Police identified the man as John Loiza. Police say he threatened officers and charged them with a pipe. That's when the officers opened fire. His sister got to the house at 9 a.m. saying the first thing she saw was his blood in the street. The officers involved are currently on leave as an investigation takes place. A Raytown man says he stabbed his 12-year-old grandson after arguing over a donut. Jose Ortega faces charges of domestic assault and armed criminal action. Police arrested Ortega after a neighbor called to report a boy screaming and bleeding outside his home this morning. Officers found a 10-inch knife in the boy's driveway. Ortega says he snapped and he knew what he did was wrong.
The man who was charged yesterday in the crash that killed a Harrisburg teacher has a long record of driving without a license. Brandon Bill was charged with felony second-degree murder in the Thursday crash. He's been charged at least 5 times with driving without a valid license. Question is, why did he do it again on Thursday?
As far as speculating on what exactly would have kept him off the road, I can't go into that at this point. The deterrence hopefully is there. It's against the law.
Brill's record is confusing and extensive. In a Target 8 investigation at 10, Will address concerns you shared on Facebook and explain more of his background.
Columbia's Public Works held an open house today for a new plan for its 6 city-owned downtown garages. It will include a gate arm system where drivers get a ticket to get in and pay to get out. This will increase city revenue and stop those who don't pay.
With this new equipment, you're going to have to pay for parking if you're going to exit. So you pull a ticket when you enter, you're going to scan that ticket on the way out, and it's going to tell you how much you have to pay for it.
In addition, Brooks says consistency across all garages should be more convenient for drivers. The council will vote on the plan in 2 weeks. If it passes, it will take 3 to 6 months to complete the project.
MoDOT recently installed more than 1,300 signs in Boone and Callaway counties to make state roads safer. This comes after a reported 520 people have been killed in accidents involving curves between 2012 and 2014. The Chevron signs are the yellow rectangular signs with black arrows that line curves on roads. MoDOT says the chevrons are spaced so drivers will see multiple when heading into and through a curve. MoDOT's Central District traffic engineer says they are a low-cost solution to keep drivers on the road.
So we're out, we're trying to be proactive by putting them on curves that may or may not have had experienced any kind of serious crashes before they happen.
Brooks says the signs can only do so much and suggests drivers pay attention on the road and stay off their phones. We've had a lot of rain on and off today, and Kenton's tracking some now on the live Doppler 8 First Alert radar. Let's check in with him.